Okay. There we go. We are here, people. We're not sure why, but we're here. All right. And we're here just in time for a little music to carry us to the live show. Off we go.
These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. I feel the rope tightening, choking off our air. We need to grab some lightning. Friday's almost here. Caught in a web, we need to cut this thread we're hanging by. Where is it said you have to be half dead to survive? These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder.
There it be. All right. It is time. Shall we get the show started?
Absolutely.
Off we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for WordPress plugins A to Z, not Z.
It's episode 589, and we have plugins for googly fonts, local fonts, normal widgets, darkening sites, AI writing, dating installs, and classic press options, all coming up on WordPress plugins from A to Z. WordPress. It's the most popular content management and website solution on the internet. And with over 80,000 plugins to choose from, how do you separate the junk from the gems? Join us for a weekly, unrehearsed conversation about the latest and greatest in WordPress plugins. This is WordPress plugins from A to Z. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there in the globe today. Coming to you direct from the Brewery Overlook, deep in the heart. No, we're down in the southern Vancouver Island. I'm John Overall, and with me is the ever lovely
Amber overall.
And we're here for another joyous day and saying, hey, Microsoft just loves us all. It's, you have perfectly set up sound settings, and you go and it's like, why is this not working? This ain't working. And Microsoft went in and changed all your default sound settings deep in the settings area. You didn't have no clue why. They just do it. Irritating is all. So that's why we showed up just a few minutes later than usual, because we had to fix all the sound. We want you guys to have good sound. We're trying to keep this sound nice, clean, and ready to rock and roll, or all of whatever we're doing here anyway. But I think I'm lost, so...
Thank you for sharing, John. Now get down from that soapbox.
Okay.
Well, welcome to episode 589. We were supposed to do this last week, but then I ended up getting an abscessed tooth last week. There was no chance that I was going to talk. It was terrible. That was my first experience with it. Hopefully is my final experience with that. Hopefully everyone out there who's listening is doing well and brushing their teeth. Trust me, you don't want to experience this. It sucks. I'm actually still a little sore today, so I'm a little quieter than usual. We had to play with my volume as well. So please do remember, this is a value for value show, meaning if you find any value here, offer that same value back. We accept all currencies, including time and talent currency. Chocolate is always welcome too. Just saying. I might not eat it right now. And don't skip the end of the show. You never know what kind of amazing life-altering advice you might just catch. And a special note to all of our listeners out there. What do you think about the way our show is flowing right now? Do you have an idea you'd like to share with us? I mean, we're still kind of messing around with the way it's going to be going, still playing with the setup, and would love to hear a little bit of feedback from people out there. Shoot us a note. Let's start today with the artist of this week.
Oh, yes, and I forgot to bring up the artwork. I forgot to get that all prepared. Take me just a minute to bring that artwork up. Keep talking. You can talk while I bring up the artwork. I know
you
exactly.
also forgot to share your screen with me.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Yes, well, that's because we were, we weren't doing
all kinds of other things.
We weren't doing the normal flow of the beginning of the show, so I'll do that. You start talking.
Yeah, well, my Monday surprise was the backlight in my main screen that I use for pretty much everything was out when I checked out my computer today. So that was a fun thing to do to deal with as well.
Yeah, the monitor's no longer excited.
Yeah, today's art is from Angel Amu, and I can't actually remember what it is, and my computer just froze.
That's not good.
Are you still hearing me?
I still hear you just fine.
Okay, so you're still hearing me. Oh, there we go. Okay, done froze. Silly thing.
It's
My
the
goodness,
motorcycle.
What a Monday.
It's the motorcycle picture.
That's a good picture. That picture makes me think of riding free on the highway, going camping, all that kind of fun stuff.
Oh yeah, getting away, leaving it all behind. Something we all want to do.
I believe this is an older piece.
Oh yeah, it's a very old one. We're digging deep in the archives right now, folks, because we have no fresh art. For our artists out there, I know we burned you out. It'd be nice, if you can unburn yourselves and produce some more. For other people listening that are artists, go give us some fresh artwork. Easy to do.
It would be pretty awesome to have some fresh artwork, but I gotta say, it is kind of neat that we're going so deep into the archives, because a lot of this I haven't actually seen before. We do have a lot of amazing art, so going deep into the archives means I get to see it for the first time.
Yep.
Kind of cool.
It was before you started on the show, a lot of the artwork.
Mm-hmm. So if anyone out there is feeling inspired and would like to send us in some art, you can do so at wpplugins.com/artwork. And you can also check out all of the other artwork there as well. On to the news.
All righty then.
Please, can everybody be quiet? Please be quiet. Shut up! And now the news with Amber.
So the first thing we have for this week is WordPress Vulnerability Report. This one is from January 11th, 2023. So it is from last week. There were quite a few vulnerabilities out there that have been fixed. So be sure to check out that list. I wanted to make sure I brought this to everyone's attention because the week before, there was a whole huge list of things going wrong, be aware, and now most of them have been fixed. So do check out this week's as well. By following this link, you'll be able to find the most recent list as well. Some of the ones that are still having some issues that I easily recognize are Jet widgets for Elementor, Social Sharing Toolkit, and accordion shortcodes. No WordPress theme vulnerabilities at this time to report, though. Next up, we have Classic Press Community. they have officially voted to refork the WordPress. So the final vote was 20 for reforking and only 18 for keeping it as is. In my opinion, that's unfortunate because now Classic Press is just a WordPress without Gutenberg.
It really is.
But, I mean, maybe they'll take it, they'll refork it, they'll revamp it. Who knows? Sometimes it is easier just to grab a new chunk of clay and start fresh.
They may manage to make it work, but at this moment, I'm not betting highly on it anymore. I bet highly on it when it first started, and I lost. And well, that's life, you know. Sometimes you make a big bet and you lose. Sometimes you make a big bet and you win.
Once bitten, twice shy?
No. I'll gamble again another time. But in this aspect here, it's not once. It's like I don't see the value in the gamble this time, because I don't see how they're going to be able to change directions with reforking WordPress from. I think they're forking it from what its current version is, 6.2 or 6.1.
I think they're reforking version 5.
Okay.
I think I can't remember which version it is, and fortunately I can't read the writing on your screen. They tell you in this article exactly which version they're reforking. They're still reforking an earlier version, but it's like after 4.9, so it has all the added files that they were trying to avoid in the first place.
They're going to fork on 6.0.
Oh, okay.
That's not an old version. That's current. We're at 6.
I thought they were going for an older version at least.
They're going to fork at 6.0. It says so here.
Huh.
So I don't know. I don't see how they're going. There's so much stuff in there that's been put in there since 5, and reforking it and then trying to pull out the Gutenberg stuff. It's like basically you can get the same thing by using Classic Editor plugin.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm not sure if this is really going to take off now.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith. We'll still hang in there and give them, you know, the kudos and bits and pieces whenever we can catch them, or if somebody from that community reaches out to us and gives us stuff, we'll continue to promote them. But I don't know.
I am interested to see.
It will be interesting,
make it
but
more Classic Press, even though they're forking 6.0.
Yep. Oh well, it is what it
so
is.
So the next thing it is what it is, yeah. The next thing we have is Automattic launches Blaze Ad Network for Jetpack and WordPress.com sites. So Automattic is bringing Tumblr's Blaze Ad tool to WordPress sites and to Jetpack. This will be an affordable way to attract new followers, get their game out there, or just to send out something funny into the universe for $5. Now, I'm actually not familiar with Tumblr's Blaze Ad tool. Are you?
I have no knowledge of Tumblr at all. I touched Tumblr briefly many years ago and pretty much left it in the dust. But what it sounds like they're doing here is they're looking to bring in the ad tool that Tumblr uses for people promoting their stuff on Tumblr, paying ads to get people, hey, come look at my new whatever I'm selling. And they're going to use this. They're going to bring this for Jetpack users and for WordPress.com sites. So it is going to be limited to those who want to use Jetpack and its overbloatedness. But I just, you know, it's a way for people to promote themselves is what it looks like to me. It doesn't look like it's a revenue stream for people.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Like I said, I'm not really familiar with it, but for anyone out there who is familiar with it, this could possibly be very exciting news.
Yeah, well, it's a way to promote the stuff out there to people or sites or whatever. So I'm not certain how it's going to work or how it's going to benefit people. I'd have to dig into it. You know, campaign, spending 180 bucks impressions. The content sponsored by Blaze will be promoted across WordPress.com sites and Tumblr pages. So
Mhm.
basically, here's how it works. You've got your own WordPress site. You want to promote your content. Maybe you're like me selling hot sauce and you say, hey, maybe I want to reach out to all these people in the Tumblr audience and the WordPress.com site audience. And that's a lot of people that go to WordPress.com. But you often end up on Tumblr sites or WordPress.com sites when you look up information on net. You just might not always realize it.
Yeah.
And if they're free users of Tumblr, free users of WordPress.com, well, they must take ads on their web pages. It's part of the contract. Free means
Oh, okay.
free means you're the product. So you're basically providing free ad space for these two sites, and so they're sell the ad space, and it could be something of value, and it looks like it may be something of use. It's not something I would ever use because I'm never going to stick Jetpack on one of my websites. But for those that use Jetpack, it could be a way to reach out. If they did this as a standalone plugin, I would do it. I would definitely do it if it was standalone, but for some reason, Automatic wants everything crammed into Jetpack. They don't want anything as standalone that more people might use. So,
Yeah, I haven't really figured out the logic behind that.
the logic behind it is an all-in-one tool that anyone can use. It makes perfect logic sense. Jetpack does. Problem is it bloats up a website sometimes, and I've seen it slow down websites dramatically. And the moment I remove Jetpack, the site suddenly takes off like a rocket. So it's like Jetpack, it's got its uses, and at first I did use it in the beginning, and it was pretty good. But then they kept adding more and more tools to it. So now it's beyond a Swiss Army knife. It's like every Swiss Army knife that's ever been made crammed into one knife.
Have you seen those so-called survival multi-tools?
Yeah,
you can't use anything on there.
That's basically what Jetpack is.
Yeah. All right, so the next thing we have here is new video explores site building progress from WordPress 5.9 to 6.2. Actually watched this. I found it kind of interesting. What they do is they show the differences that have been happening since version 5.9. Now, I found it interesting for a bit. I didn't watch the whole thing, I have to admit. Yeah, changed. They don't really explain it in great detail. They're just kind of doing an overview of what's changed, how it's changed. So this isn't really a how-to video so much as a in-review video.
Oh, that's cool. Give you a better idea for those that don't understand it yet, like me. I've barely been able to make one page using pure Gutenberg.
Yeah, like I said, it's not really a how-to. It's just a kind of a review on the changes of it. So like looking back kind of deal. It's interesting for sure. And the last thing we have is the most mind-blowing neural stories of 2022. I thought this was a really cool read. It goes through all the crazy yet awesome tech stories of the last year, from Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter to former Google engineer Blake Lemoine declaring he'd met a sentient AI, which I'm sure anybody who is on the internet for any period of time has seen the whole AI wants to kill all humans conversation.
Oh, yes. It exists.
So it's pretty cool. I like the fact they go through the crazy stories, but they don't just do the really popular ones. They do ones that aren't so popular as well.
Yep. Oh.
And that one, did the world actually end in 2022? I thought that one was kind of cool.
Oh, it might have, for all we know. I mean, there's a theory I've heard from my, teenage boys that the world ended in 2020, and we're all just living in a short 10-second dream.
Actually, my 14-year-old daughter said something similar. She said that we are actually in the Matrix now. And what happened is in 2020, we all just kind of were overtaken by the robots. Like the AI came to life, already has taken over us, and we don't remember because we were all put into those little pods like in the Matrix.
Yeah, there you go. So we've got all kinds of cool theories out there now.
Yeah.
All right.
And for Classic Press News, Well, we already talked about the Classic Press news. In case anybody missed it last time that I mentioned it, Classic Press has released 1.5.0, which brings full support for PHP 8.0, image lazy loading, and more. So you can read up on the changes are to come in the new version. I'm sure they'll have a new announcement out soon about what changes can be expected after they've reforked 6.0.
Yeah, well, the big problem they're going to have is for those out there is people are going to have to reinstall it to get the full benefits of their new fork, unless they make some backward compatibility things for people that have already been using Classic Press.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and how are they going to make it so that people who are using everything before 5.0...
It'll still be using the same database structure. It'll just have to have all the connections work correctly. I don't know. I know I know in theory how it works. I just don't know in practice how to make it to do it.
Okay. So yeah, do be sure to go and check out these guys' site if you are interested in learning about Classic Press. If you want to know a little bit more about it, go check these guys out. We also have some extra stuff for our news section. We've got things in here like Google Chrome is finally making this important privacy tweak, and AMD has revealed a whole host of CPU security flaws.
Oh, that's
And another one that might be very important to read up on, Google thinks a U.S. Supreme Court case could radically change the internet.
I wonder which case.
So there's a few of them now. But yeah, this one has got Google actually worried. So be sure to check out our extra stuff too. It's not always just kind of fun, quirky things I throw in there. Sometimes it's actually things you might want to look at. On to our contests.
All right, let's do that then.
It's a contest. WordPress plugins from A to Z. Whoa! Stop for free! Yeah!
So firstly, we want to thank Simple Giveaways for being totally awesome and providing us with their premium version for our contest. Secondly, we want to thank Steve Goodtime and Brant Matthews for creating our super awesome jingle that we still use. And we want to thank Charlie for coming to our aid and rescue yet again with another fantastic contest. He has been working his behind off since he came back out of the netherworld. So for this week, we still have our SweetPress Unlimited Lifetime Agency License giveaway. It's valued at $459. So this will be running. Next Monday is when we will be announcing the winner for this. So you have one more week. Be sure to get yourself in there, get your name in, see if you can win this. So what SweetPress is it's a fairly easy to use plugin. It's built around 28 different sweepers for database cleanup, support for WP CLI and WP REST API, and it has the ability to create sweep jobs that can include one or more sweepers, and they can be scheduled to run periodically. There's some other useful tools in here too to help clean up and optimize your site. It's a pretty cool plugin. Definitely worth checking out. Get your name in there. This is definitely a plugin that's worth trying to get your name into for. Hey, MDN. Good to see you.
He's having some internet issues. That's a bummer. Know how that
does
goes.
suck. It's just one of those Mondays.
Yeah, well, that is what it is. Alrighty, well, let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Oh, one more thing though.
Oh, can't go to meat and potatoes yet.
In order to put your name into the contest, you need to go to wppluginsa2z.com/plugin contest. So remember that, /plugin contest, all one word. Go there, get your name in, you'll be good. Or just go to our site and click the giveaway. It's bright and colorful and shiny.
Alrighty. Meat and potatoes.
Yep.
righty, so off we go with the first plugin I've got for you this week. I have for you WP Google Fonts. Now, if you're adding Google Fonts to your site and you've done it the old-fashioned way, like many of us have done, you got to go to Google Fonts and find the font, download the font, upload it to your site, connect it all up. There's a few different plugins to help you to get the fonts in here. But this awesome little plugin I discovered last week, week before, when I was setting up some fonts on a new site, it allows you to set it up, go find the fonts you want, quickly install them and activate them, and boom, they're there on your site. Now, granted, you're still pulling them from Google, and it's a bit of a problem and a hassle if you want to be GPDR compliant and blah, 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 privacy things all over the world. And but it is a very easy to use, simple plugin to find Google Fonts. You just got to sort through the list, and you can choose, you know, the font you want, the type of the font you want of that style. You can get all the body tags. You can assign it to different body tags on the site. You can also go choose the size of the font, etc., that you want. All of that stuff to be downloaded and used. So, very useful tool. I found it very handy for this instead of having to go the old-fashioned route and do it. Made setting up the fonts just a breeze for the site, and with the next plugin I've got, an even better deal for you. But we'll leave it at that for this one. Go check it out. It's the WP Google Fonts, and I give it a 5 dragon rating.
Hey, I heard the dragon today. That's awesome.
Good for you. We're in the year of the rabbit now. You're a rabbit.
I am a rabbit.
It's your year.
It sure is. That must mean good things are coming my way finally.
Yep. What's supposed to happen in the year you were born? You know, if it's your year, it's supposed to be a good year.
Perfect.
And it just changed over a couple of days ago.
Excellent. So the first plugin I have for today is called Dark My Site, WP Dark Mode. I'm always searching for dark modes because my eyes are very light sensitive. You would think that, you know, working on a computer would not be conducive to that, but luckily most computers and most websites have the dark mode option. Now, my goal has been to find the best dark mode options for your site. This one, it's a pretty nifty plugin. It's just a plug and play, giving your front end a dark mode option. No settings or anything. And the toggle in the actually rather pretty. It shows up on the bottom right corner of your site, just out of the way, so it doesn't interfere with any of your content or anything. One thing about this, though, and this has been the biggest issue I found with most dark modes, it does put a bit of a haze over your pictures. So if you have on your site, like if you have all the pictures on your site specifically due to, or specifically because of their vibrancy, because you need those bright colors, no matter if the person is in dark or light mode, then this may not be the best one for you. But then again, the haze is very mild over your pictures. It doesn't mess up your pictures, just like a very light black cover on it, very, very see-through. I don't know how to explain, but am I making sense?
Yeah, making sense.
Okay. So it is good. I've come across this problem I've come across a problem with a lot of dark mode plugins where as soon as they hit dark mode on the front end, your pictures become inverted with their coloring. So this is probably the best plugin that I've found so far regarding the pictures on your site. Definitely worth checking out if you are wanting to offer your viewers a dark mode option. And it does seem to play well with others. So I rate this at 4 dragons.
Very cool for those that like dark mode. I don't particularly care for it myself. All right, the next one I've got for you here is Local Google Fonts. Now this one here makes it real easy to help you comply with the issues around using Google Fonts directly off of their site and the privacy issues around it. So what you can do with this one here, well, the first one we talked about, you can go find your Google Fonts, install them and activate them. Then you install this plugin, you go see those Google Fonts that are installed on your site, and then you click them, and then it downloads them and permanently serves them up from your website. so that you no longer have to worry about where the Google fonts are or losing the connection to them or anything else. They're always right there on your website to be served up. Very simple plugin, very easy to use. It only lists the fonts that are actually installed and activated on your site. So even though you might have the previous plugin, the WP Google Fonts, it's with the list of fonts you can access, whether they're not installed on your site, so you don't have to worry about over-installing fonts. And when you're installing it on here, you can choose all the different styles that are available for the font to be installed, so you can have every style. The best bet is just install all the styles so you're not guessing. You know, if you know it precisely, you can install just precisely what you're using. But on the whole, really great plugin, very simple to use, and nice and easy on what you want to do and to allow you to become GDPR compliant. And of course, plugin like this gets a beautiful 5 Dragon rating. Go check it out, local Google Fonts.
MDN had a good question here. There are also plugins that remove Google Fonts. If you need a plugin to add them and another to remove them, are they not there by default?
I don't understand the question. Is what not there by default? The fonts?
The Google fonts.
No, they're not there by default. Because different themes will have base Google fonts, and it'll be coded in for that theme to grab those Google fonts, but it doesn't install them into your site. It only tells when your site loads, as it's loaded and making its multiple callouts to the internet for all the other stuff it's got to bring in, such as all the tracking cookies and everything else. It goes, oh, we need Google fonts. Go over to the Google server and grab these fonts and throw them in before we load all the CSS. So sometimes you'll see it. You'll see it occasionally because your browser starts with the default font of Arial, I believe, is the default font for all text that hits your browser. And then the CSS says, nope, don't use Arial. Use these font set here. And you'll see it on some sites. It was a problem a few years ago. It was called a flash. And what would happen was initially the site would load with all Arial, and then like a half a second or a second later, all of a sudden all the text and everything would change into the font that's being loaded for the site. So it doesn't happen as often now as it did, but the internet's a lot faster now, so the lag isn't there. And also they've learned how to properly bring in stuff in the proper order. And but it was a problem. I remember fighting a website and we had to change the order of load of everything to make sure that that didn't happen when the site was loading. But it's been like 2, 3, maybe 4 years now that was occurring. I can't remember how long ago it was. But,
sounds frustrating.
But they're not there by default. But once you install them into your site, I haven't tested if you remove this plugin, if the fonts stay active. I imagine that they might, or at the very worst, they will still stay installed on your site. Even if they're not active, they'll still be installed there. So yeah, if there's plugins to remove Google Fonts, it's to prevent using Google Fonts in some areas. I know that you can, Elementor has a default setting for Google Fonts in it that you need to turn off when you're first setting up Elementor. You know.
Yeah, I was just thinking, there's often the option of all these different fonts that you can choose from, but like 90% of them are Google fonts.
Yeah, almost everything. Well, Google changed the entire font game. Initially, before Google Fonts came out, you had to go buy all your fonts, and fonts were expensive.
Really?
Yeah, well, they're copyrighted. A font is copyrighted.
That's interesting.
There's if you create a set of fonts, that's a copyrighted set of fonts. You know, and if people start using it, you can sue them for money. You know, but I remember I paid big money for fonts back in the day. You know, that's why I have a very large collection of fonts that I licensed out, paid money for.
So how does Google give them out for free? Because
Google went and redesigned all the fonts, created new names for all the fonts. They created similar styles. It's like Helvetica, the most famous font of all, is owned by Adobe. And everywhere it's used, they pay a license fee to use that font. And so Google went and designed its own version of Helvetica. It's not as close or as crisp as Helvetica, but it's really close. You know, and then Google made it open source so anyone could use it. So Google's done a few good things in their years, back before they removed "Don't Be Evil" from their logo.
All right. Well, the next plugin I have is called AI Press. This is a plugin that's supposed to help you to generate post content. Now, I had an interesting experience with this. The first thing that happened was I got this message. The plugin generated 168 characters of unexpected output during activation. If you notice, headers already sent messages, problem with syndication feeds or other issues, try deactivating or removing this plugin. That kind of made me a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard
that's
of
a common
plugin.
error. That's a common error on plugins.
Really?
I haven't seen that error in quite some time now.
I've never seen it before.
That means there's a conflict. There's a conflict when the plugin's being installed. And what's happening is this plugin was trying to send a header notice, and someone else was already sending a header notice. And then problems with syndication feeds. You know, if you're using GPT, they've had problems accessing. They've been overloaded.
Okay. Well, even though I didn't know what this meant right away, it was just my sandbox, so I decided to continue playing around with the plugin.
Yeah.
You'll find the dashboard for this plugin on the left-hand side in your main menu as AI Press. At the top of the dashboard, there is a place to enter in your Open API key.
Yep.
I didn't initially see anything about that in the description, though apparently it is in the question and answer area. I decided at this point simply to opt out. I didn't feel like signing up for an API key to use this, and I didn't like that it was creating unexpected output or issues.
Well, that unexpected output it used to be a common issue.
Okay.
I saw it a lot several years ago with plugins because they were all trying to do this. You're installing a new plugin that's trying to do something that some other plugin's already doing.
Okay.
So it's not a bad error. It's a badly coded plugin.
Okay. Well, I didn't like it, and you can't use it at all unless you sign in.
Yep, you got to get the API key.
Yeah.
And right now it's really hard. I'm trying to get myself logged in there. I realized I can use a different way of accessing and getting my key without having to throw a phone number at them.
Yeah, it is a bit of a PETA to get your API key with this as well. And another thing too is when I deleted this, I had to delete it twice. The first time I deleted it, it just said it couldn't compute essentially. So I had to close out, log back in, and then try deleting it again, and that time it deleted.
Yeah, it sounds like a badly coded plugin.
Yeah. Luckily, it didn't leave anything behind because I've noticed when plugins are behaving badly, they don't always fully delete themselves.
Yep.
So I went in to the files in cPanel, double checked all those things, made sure there was nothing left behind. Which, if you notice the plugin that is badly behaving, make sure you go into your cPanel or you or something, or ask for some help if you don't know. Make sure nothing was left behind in your files, because when stuff gets left behind in your files, it can create some serious problems. I've learned.
Well, pretty much. Pretty much. They also leave tables behind in your database sometimes too.
Yeah, that was the other one I meant to mention. Not really sure what to think of this plugin. I gave it a 3 dragon. Not great, not terrible, just eh.
Yeah. All right, well.
It's time to donate to WP Plugins A to Z.
We interrupt this meat and potatoes of Plugin Depravity Edition to bring you our donation segment and to thank our producers. Remember, this is your show. We're just the worker bees here. Don't forget to restock the show's larders with some time, treasure, or talent donations. If you need more information on how to do that, you can check out our site, wppluginsa2z.com. Right up in the menu, you will see each one under donations. Special thanks goes to our freelance producers who are always popping in and out. they're always showing up at unexpected times, but these producers, I'm pretty sure, are a large part of the reason why our name is actually getting out there these days. So thank you for that. Plus, they pop in, they help out, they vanish. And our backroom producers who are always hanging out in the lounge. Always about the place, always consuming all the coffee and donuts too. These producers earn it though. They help out with our contests, artwork, site organization, notes, questions, suggestions, licenses, and even by hiring us. Your time and talent donations are equal to your treasure donations of under $50. We would not be here without you. And our War Room producers. With their donations of $50 or more, these producers receive a few extra perks. An official A to Z handle of their choice, a spotlight in that week's show for a short speech, an official executive producership credit, and they get to see a bit of the magic as it happens up in the War Room before we send the show out into the netherworld of the internets. Thank you for sticking by us and helping to keep the backroom producers stocked in coffee and donuts. There is more information in our show notes on a definition for each of these things I just listed out. So be sure to check out our show notes. Thank you. Now back to the meat and potatoes, a Plug-in Depravity edition.
Alrighty. Well, let's get back to my last and final plugin I've got for you here today. It's called...
Called Chokehack.
Well, it's the
Chokehack Gag?
hot pepper tincture. While you were giving your speech there, I took a little bit of my hot pepper tincture.
Aha.
And, okay. Back to normal widgets. All right. For those of you that want your classic press or your classic press style back to your classic editor, you might want your classic widgets back too. Especially if you're still running a theme that uses classic widgets. I found out the hard way. You update to, I think it was 6 when they removed the widgets or moved the widgets into Gutenberg widgets. And I needed to adjust a widget on a site that I couldn't find the bloody widgets. I was like, where'd they go? And I found out, they changed them. So you had to install a plugin. I didn't use this one. This is a new one that I recently discovered. So I thought I'd highlight it, another plugin to bring back your normal widgets so that if you're using them, you can use them the way they were meant to be used, which is kind of cool that that's still available through WordPress. Is, even though they've made these advances for those that aren't ready for the new jump to it, they can go in here and install something that makes everything work the way you want it to work. Useful plugin, one that I think can be helpful to everyone else. Go check it out. Back to normal widgets, and I give it a 4 dragon rating.
Awesome. So the changes that they made is kind of like a drop cloth over top. You can still pull the cloth off and you have your widgets back?
Yeah, they moved the widgets under Gutenberg stuff the same way they moved the editor under Gutenberg. And you turn off the Gutenberg editor, the classic editor returns. You turn off the Gutenberg widgets, the classic widgets return. I can't even remember where they hid the widgets. It's like I couldn't figure out how to do what should have been a 5-minute job.
Yeah.
And it's like you're eating into my productivity time here on a learning curve that I'm not ready to do. So at any rate,
as much as I don't like Gutenberg, I do appreciate that they made it fairly easy to turn off.
Yep. That's been a nice appreciation for it.
I think they would have
killed. I think they would have killed WordPress if they didn't make it all easy to turn off, at least for a few more years.
That is true.
And in a few more years, many people will have gotten rid of all the old stuff and be up to date with more modern theme, and they will have played with Gutenberg enough to find their way around. And so
yeah,
I'm slowly getting there.
Me too.
Going there, kicking and screaming. Like a toddler into the bathtub.
So the last one I have for today is Code Kieran. I think that's how you say it.
Code Kieran. Code Corun.
Oh, okay. Code Corun. I misspelt it.
That's how I see it.
Other installation details. So this is a really helpful and free plugin. It's another plug and play, no settings. Although if you want to change the date setup, you can do so through the general settings of your site. However, this will affect your entire site, not just how this plugin displays the information.
Oh, that's useful info.
Yeah. So once installed, this plugin will record the following of each and every plugin for you and display it in your plugin's dashboard area where you go to update. The installation date of the plugins, the last deactivation date of the plugins, the last reactivation of the plugins, and the user who installed the plugins. For those who need to troubleshoot a website, this can be very useful. Not so useful if you are new to the site and are trying to troubleshoot though, because the plugin can only record plugins that have been installed and activated after this plugin has been installed and activated. But it's recording what happens.
That's too
It can't tell you what happened before it got there.
That's too bad. I was hoping that there was a hidden date from when plugins were installed and it was exposing it.
Maybe. That's something that they talk about in the question and answers area. But who knows? Maybe down the line they'll manage to find something. So I rate this plugin at 5 dragons.
All right. Well, let's go give them that. Yeah, I see people ask. No, unfortunately, we can't see any solution for that. Hopefully soon. So they're trying to find a solution to see if they can pick out the date. Because I imagine there's a date timestamp when you install a plugin buried somewhere in the WordPress data set.
Yeah, like I said, it does seem like they're trying to work towards it. They don't have it yet.
Yeah.
They're working for it, but no guarantee it'll happen.
Yeah, well, that'd be kind of cool if they find it. That would make it that information would be very useful. If you can install it, find out when plugins were installed and by who, the last time they were activated. If you could find out all that information for everything in the past, you could figure out.
Oh yeah.
Wait a minute. They added this They said the problem occurred here, and they added this plugin here. Huh? Turn off this plugin. Boom. Oh, problem solved. Well, we found your problem. God, that would just save tons of time.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be free anymore if they manage to figure that bit out, though.
No, I wouldn't either, man, because that's like a gold piece of information.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So for Classic Press, for a while now, I've had this Classic Press section saying that this information on Classic Press it's just current information explanation on Classic Press. I've been saying it's like fruitcake. It never really dies.
Well, fruitcake does die eventually.
It's not really true anymore because they're forking 6.0. So now they're changing. My fruitcake, I guess, is withering.
Your fruitcake is drying out. Somebody tore the plastic wrapping around it. It's drying out.
Yeah. So as it stands right now, the information we have here for you on Classic Press is true. Whenever they come out with their new release after reforking, it will no longer be true. But I will revamp it at that point.
Have to revamp the content then.
Yeah. There's also some useful links here. Excuse me. There's also some useful links here for Classic Press, like the must-have plugins list, repository. There's some good links there. We do have a question today, which is kind of cool. Actually, just a note. Hey, Amber and John. Happy New Year. Really like the new layout for the show and the variety of plugins you were reviewing. Wishing you both a great year for 2023. Keep up the good work. Sharon. Thanks, Sharon.
Oh, thank you.
That's a really cool note.
Well, get out there and tell others about it.
Definitely.
Go get them all plugged in.
If you are interested in sending in a question or a comment or anything, you can go to wppluginsaToZ.com/submit plugin review, or just go to wppluginsaToZ.com, and up in the top you will find in our menu the option to send in a comment. You can also get us to interview you and help get yourself out there. So we'll put our interview up on our site for you, and we'll do it on your time schedule to the best of our ability. So it's worth doing if you want to get some information out there, new plugin or what have you. No reminders about stuff. Stuff and reminders about stuff is how I have it labeled. Today's plugins we covered were.
All right, well, I covered up the following plugins for you, and it was WP Google Fonts, which I gave a 5 to, Local Google Fonts, which I gave a 5 to, and then Back to Normal Widgets, which I gave a 4 to.
And I covered Dark My Site -WP Mode, which I rated at 4. AI Press, which I rated at 3. And Code Co-Run, Other Installation Details, which I rated at 5. I remember there's a whole bunch of ways that you can support our show. You start by hitting the like button on the YouTube video and give us that thumbs up. Subscribe to us, donating, or download us on one of your preferred podcast stations like Google Play or iTunes Store. Also, we have a Facebook. Is it a Facebook channel or just page?
Page, I believe.
Okay, so we have a Facebook page. You can hit us up there and see what we've got to say. And if you want to get a hold of us, we do have a brick and mortar address you can send physical things to, which is pretty cool. Not a lot of people do that anymore, it seems. But we have a brick and mortar address you can send things to, or you can email us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. On to question and answer time.
Alrighty then.
It's question and answer time with John and Amber.
Alrighty then.
So if anyone out there has any questions that they'd like to have asked here on the show, feel free to send them in to me at amber@wppro.ca, and we'll see you stump my dad. I almost stumped him last show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're getting close.
So my first question is, what kind of files would be likely to exist in files that WordPress labels as unexpected?
I don't understand the question.
This came from that message I received when I tried the AI Press plugin, and it said unexpected files were written. So I was just wondering, like, what is it that it considers to be unexpected files?
Is that what that said? Hang on. Let me read that again. What was that?
Just so our listeners know, when I wrote these questions, my face was hurting, so they may not be fully.
It said unexpected output during activation.
Oh, okay.
Not unexpected files. Okay. Unexpected output means it expected a certain output to be displayed or to be done when it fully loaded it, and it got unexpected information. It didn't actually write any files. Because, yeah, most plugins, they don't write files. The only files that are written generally in the WordPress file structure is the error log. That's the only thing that's, if you see anything that's not labeled WP in there, and that's usually an automatic, doesn't belong. There are a few, but not very many, that don't have the WP in front of them for folders and files.
So the folders that show up aren't considered files?
Well, a folder is where you store your files.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, each plugin has its own folder with files in it.
It has its own folders with all its subfiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was thinking is, if there are unexpected files.
Yeah, but unexpected files, the only thing, if it's I couldn't even tell you what to expect as an unexpected file. Error log, you'll find back in the days when it was easier to hack into WordPress sites, you'd find gibberish names. Or you'd find some with WP and they'd have a label similar to something WordPress to trick you. And basically, you just gotta, if you do enough manual installs of WordPress or you do enough navigation in the WordPress file structure, you start to recognize all the files that are there, even if you don't remember them all or the names. Okay. You recognize which ones belong and which ones don't. And basically, it's a matter of learning. It's like a lot of it is just photographic memory. I look at the picture in my mind. I look and say, that doesn't belong. And then when I'm really confused about it, I go to one of my local copies of WordPress. I open up the files in there and I just look through to see if all the file names match. If the file names don't match the original files that I have that I use to install the WordPress website, then I know that file doesn't belong or that folder doesn't belong. So it could be anything. Okay. It's like unexpected things. They can name them anything, and they do name them anything. Anything and everything they're named.
Okay, so the next question, I'm just going to change on the fly here. I remember when I tested out an accessibility plugin. It's actually become very popular. I can't remember the name of it now. Mm-hmm. But it's for people with any kind of disability. You install it in your computer, and then it takes you through the walkthrough on how to make your site more accessible.
Yeah.
Now, I played around with it, found it confusing, went to delete it, and it looked like it had been deleted from like my site in the plugins area. But then when I was in the cPanel, I saw all the files for it still there.
Yeah.
How does that happen? All the files still in your cPanel, but nothing on your dashboard.
Because they wrote a poor cleanup script.
Now, when those files are still there, does it still affect your site as though it's still active?
No, not if the plugin's not on and active. But they take up space. They become a possible security hole.
Okay.
So you have to manually delete them. The easiest way to manually delete files in WordPress, except for in your WP content folder, is to just go delete the WP admin, the WP. I can't remember the names of them. There's 3 folders that you can delete. Let's look those up real quick and see what we've got here. And, come here. There we go. And
I have an additional part to this question when you're done mumbling and finding what you're looking for.
Mumbling, just sort of, keep from having dead air. So, what you can do is if you remove the WP admin folder, WP includes folder, and then all the WP files in the root folder except the WP config folder, you just delete all those and you re-upload the WP admin WP includes folder. And now you've replaced any and all corrupted files that were there with fresh, clean files without having to search for everything. It saves a lot of time. It's a lot of grief. If a site's been compromised, that's the first thing I do to a site that's been compromised. Now, the WP content folder, that's a whole nother game because that's where all your uploads go. That's where all your plugins are at, your themes, all of those things are in the WP content folder. So that you have to learn what belongs and what doesn't belong to manually go remove what doesn't belong in there. That's the structure. You should learn that structure. What's supposed to be in there? What plugins are supposed to be in there? Which ones should have been removed?
Yeah, I've had plugins where I had to get rid of it on the dashboard, go and delete it from WP content, and then go and delete the tables as well, all separately.
Yeah, well, there's plugins made to help you clean up the tables.
Yeah.
There's some really great table cleanup plugins. SweetPress is a good one. Probably cleans up great orphan tables. The plugin that we're giving away, folks. That one there probably has a good function in there for sweeping out orphan files, orphan tables.
Yeah. So the other part of my question is, what do you do when you literally cannot delete a plugin? You tell it to delete and it just can't.
You mean if you're in the WordPress admin dashboard? You're trying.
Yeah, anywhere.
Well, if you can't delete it in your cPanel, something is seriously wrong. You have to reach out to your web hosting provider so that they can go in with root access to the server and go delete those files. If you can't go through your own FTP or your own cPanel and delete the files, there's some permission problem with those files. And
there was another accessibility plugin that I tried, and I could not delete it.
You can't delete it from your cPanel?
I couldn't delete it from anywhere. What I ended up doing is I just ended up loading up a backup to get rid of it.
Yeah, well, that's one way to do it. But so basically, that's a dangerous plugin then, because it's writing strange permissions to the files when it's installing it, and it's preventing things from happening. And I don't know how or why it's doing it, but it has happened and occurred. But that means that's a very poorly coded plugin to create that kind of issue, because that's a security flaw.
Now that I know that, I'll try and remember which one it was so I can bring it to the show.
Yeah.
All right, I have a couple more questions for my dad after the closing credits. For those listening elsewhere, you will have to make your way over to the YouTubes to hear them.
Absolutely. So let's let our girl take us on out of here.
Reminders for the show. All show notes can be found at wppluginsa2z.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the newsletter for more useful information delivered directly to your inbox. WP Plugins A to Z is a show that offers honest and unbiased reviews of plugins created by developers because you support the show. Help keep the show honest and unbiased by going to wppluginsa2z.com/donate and set the donation level that fits your budget. Help us make the show better for you by subscribing and reviewing the show at Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and in the iTunes Store. You can also leave us a review on our Facebook page using wppluginsa2z.com/Facebook. You can also watch the show live on YouTube, check out the screencasts and training videos, and remember to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications of all new videos. Follow the show on Twitter at WPPluginsA2Z. John can also be reached at his website, johnoverall.com, or email him directly, john@wppro.ca. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the show. This show is copyright by johnoverall.com. So until next time, have yourselves a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be out there on the globe today.
Alrighty.
So I have to admit, these questions aren't entirely mine. I had some help.
Oh, okay.
First one, when you uninstall a plugin, are there any out-of-the-way places you should check for stray files that didn't delete?
Well, the plugins will install and put all their stray files in the WP content folder. Now, they don't always put all their files under the plugins section of the WP content folder. Sometimes they'll create a separate folder under WP content for content that those plugins are specific to, such as WP Fastest Cache. It'll create a cache folder that's where the cache is stored. Some image plugins will create a image folder. Most of them are usually use good programming and name their folders similar, or so you can identify them with the plugin. So most of them do that, the good ones. You get the bad ones sometimes that don't, but they always do put them somewhere. That's always in the WP content folder. It's very rare. The only ones that create files outside WP content is WordFence. It creates 2 files in the root area for the WAF file, the WordPress firewall file, and it puts one in there for WordFence too. That puts 2 files in there. Some plugins, when you're installing them, you give them access to write specific information to your WP robot file or some other things. It varies. It depends on what the plugin's doing or what it's supposed to do as to what it will do. So it's very rare that I've never had one put content in the WP admin folder or the WP admin folder or the WP includes folder. I've never had a plugin put content there. So it's either in the WP content folder or it's in the root area.
Okay.
So
that is good to know, though.
Yeah, so that's basically how they tend to work. If they're putting content outside them, it's not a plugin. It's not something that's help you. It's a hack.
Okay. The last question. Is there a possibility that a plugin file could insert itself so deeply that removing it breaks other plugins on your site? If so, what should you do then?
I can't recall ever having that happen. I suppose it's possible. If that happens, you better hope to God you have a backup before you install that plugin. Because if you don't, you're going to be there for hours cleaning up the mess. And it's
What kind of mess would that create by removing a plugin causing breakage?
Well, if it causes breakage in other plugins, it means it overwrote some files it shouldn't have written. It changed content somewhere. And now you have to figure out what, where, and when, which can be very hard. I mean, you consider your average plugin. Well, I don't have actually I do have some average plugins somewhere. Let's see here.
How about Classic Press? Or not Classic?
No. Let's hold on a second. We'll just go into some old plugins that I've got. We'll pick an old plugin. We'll go with Backup WP, Back WP Up from 2018. Okay. This is a plugin that contained 1,157 files in 164 folders.
Wow.
Okay, and that's just your average plugin. That's your average plugin, you know. They all contain anywhere from, you know, a couple dozen to thousands of files, and from a couple of folders to hundreds of folders. You know, let's take a plugin that's really got quite a lot going. Let's go with All-in-One Event Calendar. All-in-One Event Calendar contains 1,207 files and 393 folders. Yeah.
That's a few.
So you have to go, okay, something's wrong with this. Where do I look? You know, so there are tools to help you find the information errors, but a lot of this stuff is, the more you do it, the more knowledge you get stuck in your head, because it's like everything else. The errors that occur are repetitive patterns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of stuff with coding and fixing and repairing websites is figuring out the patterns, and knowing where it's going to look. It often breaks in the same manner, the same way. You know, it's just the things I've seen and done with it.
Hemdian made a good point. He said, minor point. After adding or removing a plugin, purge any cache if you have a plugin and or use Cloudflare.
Yes. I forgot to deal with the purging of the cache. Yeah. Problem is I hardly ever use a cache personally. A lot of people use caches to speed up their site. The problem is the cache can stick around for several times to load and be loading old data, especially if you're using Cloudflare, because Cloudflare is notorious for slow updating of its cache. You have to manually go delete it.
All right, well, didn't get to stump you today. Maybe next show.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. I wouldn't get your hopes too high up, though.
Nah, if I hold my breath, I'll likely faint.
Yeah, that's about right. Alrighty, well, we'll call it a wrap. We'll wrap it at that. All right, thanks everyone for showing up, for those that did appear and listen to the show. And for the person who just recently appeared in the last few minutes, you missed out on a whole bunch of good stuff. Go check out all the other stuff previous to the show. We'd greatly appreciate it. And if you like what you're hearing, tell others about it. Hey, if you really like it, hit that little thumbs up button for the YouTube video. Who knows? It may help us get further reach. Anyway,
that'd be cool.
Thanks everyone for showing up. That's all we've got. Anything from you?
I was gonna wait till after the show to say take care.
Okay, well we haven't got there yet. All right.
Yep.
All right, little music, carry us on to the end.
These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. I feel the rope tightening, choking off our air. We need to grab some lightning. Friday's almost here. Caught in a web, we need to cut this thread we're hanging by. Where is it said you have to be half dead to survive? These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder.
Alrighty, folks. That's all we've got for you now. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
33, that's a magic number.
Adios.